I think that's about as straight and level as I'm ever going to get this camera. So, time to start. Now, the Grungeon Master recently posted a question, and I've linked his video below. Are goblins, my favorite subject, in generalized fantasy media and TTRPGs, secretly more civilized than we give them credit? Considering the information and evidence, the ideas he proposed, the answer was obviously yes. And I completely agree. What I'd like to do this time around is to offer potentially some more evidence and a standard by which we can more fairly judge what a civilization might actually be. One moment, please. Addictions. Before that, in response to something the Grungeon Master said offhand, yes, the Mayans were in fact a Stone Age civilization. Just as, regardless of their mathematical or astronomical brilliance, they were a Stone Age civilization. Same as the ancient ancestors of the Ojibwe were far less mathematically advanced, were a Chalcolithic, a Copper Age civilization, perhaps as early as 9,000 years ago. And the Aztec were early Bronze Age when they were colonized. Access to a specific technology is not a qualifier for societal advancement or complexity. It's just a means by which we can identify which specific technologies came into existence within which specific societies at what times. Okay, back to the subject at hand. What actually are the hallmarks of civilization in what we could identify? In Grungeon Master's video, he pointed out ideas like the recording and transmission of information and knowledge, specifically in the form of abstract symbols and carvings on bones. This sounds to us far less civilized, but recording and recording and transmitting, you try saying that really quickly. Recording and transmitting information can and has come in many forms that took us in our modern world a long time to accept and understand. As an example, the Inca Quipu system of strings, knots, and colors, which we are even now only barely beginning to decipher, was used by the Inca. Even earlier than that, 30,000+ years in fact, European cave paintings of various animals in some instances have been found accompanied with patterns of dots and lines that correspond to lunar and seasonal cycles and animal pregnancies. So even then, information was being recorded and transmitted. Marks carved on bones is a step up from this in some ways, not least of which because bones are a lot more portable than a cave wall. So not only could these goblins record and transmit information, they could also transport it. A second hallmark of civilization, to my mind, is intentionally permanent structure. Building something that is intended to be repeatedly or consistently inhabited on a generational scale. Whether the habitation actually lasts more than one generation or not, it's the intention we're talking about. Building something that's meant to last a long time, whether we would consider Goblin construction shoddy or not, they build it with the intention of staying put. Considering what we commonly accept as normal behavior for a Goblin band or tribe, they wouldn't be very likely to put effort into construction without the intention to stay in that place. Again, we have similar examples from our real world prehistory. The Natufian cultural complex are understood to have been nomadic, but that doesn't mean aimlessly wandering. A more accurate way to put it would be a seasonal migratory pattern. They would repeatedly travel the same seasonal route and stop in the same places in the same season every year, and they did this for hundreds of years in a row. The evidence we have for this are shallow pits dug into the ground where stone foundations were laid with cleaned floors and low stone walls. This would support a timber frame and either a thatch or hide roof. The tools and artifacts found inside the houses were organized and stored according to what task they were associated with. That sounds pretty civilized to me for 14,000 years ago in the Levant. But we can go even further back than that. All the way back for this one, way before Homo sapiens. There's a site called, see if I can pronounce this, Bilsingsleben in Germany. It's dated to between 300,000 and 400,000 years ago. The human remains in that area were fragmentary enough that they're still arguing over whether it was late Homo erectus, Heidelbergensis, or early Neanderthal. But what they found there, as far as construction, is what I want to point out. Rings of big rocks interspaced with depressions in the dirt. In any context late enough to be Homo sapien, these would be called dry stone foundations and post holes for a permanent structure. A house. It's just the age of them that's got archaeologists worried about making that kind of a statement because they don't want to threaten their credibility. Established, accepted views, etc. Etc. Let's call it what it is, though. They're houses. About a half dozen of them. Everything inside and around them was organized. There's remnants of controlled fire, meaning a hearth. There was a place for tool production, a place for butchering, a place for storage, and the same few kinds of animals were butchered and processed there over and over for hundreds of years, mostly deer and beaver. Incidentally, they might have also found evidence for compound tools at the site, which would be groundbreaking. A stick carved into a shape where a stone blade could have easily been attached to it. But that's another story. And again, the site would have been inhabited for a very long time. Hunter-gatherers don't put effort or energy into an overnight camp. Not that much effort and energy in any case. And they don't leave hundreds of artifacts where they only stayed for a few nights. Construction with the intention of long-term habitation. Goblins do that too in our game worlds. They don't build anything if they're just camping along the road. They build where they intend to stay. how about a third one? A third hallmark of civilization. Surplus. Food preservation. Do goblins do this? Whether it's drying, smoking, curing, pickling, or fermenting, gathering more than you can immediately use. No, you don't. You don't need to go near the camera, Katie. You don't need to go near the camera. Don't you get mad at me like that. This is Chairman Mao. She will be joining us for the moment so she doesn't get tempted to attack the camera. So, gathering more than you can immediately use, preserving and storing some away so you can use it later. The way I write Goblins, they do this, but in general fantasy fiction, in TTRPGs in particular, I would argue that they also do. Mainly due to descriptions of goblin camps smelling like rot. Controlled fermentation is a very long-used system of preservation, even as far back as the earliest beer 11,000 years ago. Real world. That would have been more like a mildly alcoholic porridge, which would last longer without going bad than early bread would. Fermenting their food would definitely explain why goblin camps smell bad. Have you ever smelled the process of making Roman garum? As a direct example. It's literally salt, spices, and rotten fish. In imperial times, they had to write laws that you could only make garum downwind of the city. It smelled that bad. They allowed leather workers inside the city, leather processing, but they couldn't make garum inside the city. That would also explain why what adventurers might describe as piles of stinking garbage and rotting food in goblin camps, which perhaps should rightly be called villages, maybe. Picture this. The goblins put their surplus food in open-topped containers, likely clay pots, whatever they manage to scavenge. They pile blankets, rags, and animal skins over top of them to keep the temperature stable, keep the heat in, so that the fermentation is faster. Probably stacking heavier objects on top of that, scraps of metal, rocks, old tools, to keep the rags and blankets in place, keep the wind from picking them up, and to keep everything better sealed. What would that look like to your average adventurer? A pile of rotting garbage. Now, what would that look like to an anthropologist studying an ancient culture? That little change in perspective makes a huge difference, doesn't it? So we've established 3 hallmarks of civilization so far. What other ones can we come up with? Now, I can only think of 2 more right now. A language, and goblins have their own language. And what I refer to as pavement. I'll say paving, commonly. What I mean is a cleared and flattened surface to walk on, to travel on. Not roads per se, but clean, regularly used paths. Places that are trampled flat through repeated use, devoid of vegetation, essentially the forerunner to a sidewalk, a routeway. Something that's habitually walked on enough that it's etched itself into the ground. Now, we've only got those 5 as benchmarks. These are the ones I could figure out. what I could come up with. We've already determined that goblins have 4 of them. Do you think they have root ways? Do you think they'd be habitual enough to take the same path back and forth to the same place long enough to kill the grass underfoot and leave a mark? Let me know what you think. And as always, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you next time.